Hello again and welcome to the Rectory for our junior church session for Pebbles. Let's start, as we always do, by lighting our candle. To remind us that this is our special time with God. Well, last week we thought about why God decided to come to earth as a person, as Jesus, so that we could get to know him and learn how we should live. Jesus, here's my Jesus this week. I think he's needing a haircut like most of us are with the hairdressers shut. Jesus went round telling people about God. He made sick people better. He told people how to love each other and how to look after each other. And crowds came to hear him. And the crowds coming to hear him got bigger and bigger, more and more people. But still there were even more people who needed to know about God. So Jesus chose some people to spend a bit of time with him, to learn more about God, and then to help him spread the message. We call them Jesus' disciples. Who do you think he chose to be disciples? He needed people who could share this special, important message about God's love. Sometimes it was hard to understand. Sometimes people didn't want to listen. Sometimes it was quite dangerous. So, who do you think he chose? Perhaps very clever people who could understand it all. Perhaps people who were very good at making speeches so that people would listen. Perhaps very good people who never did anything wrong. Perhaps very strong and brave people who wouldn't mind the danger. Well, no, actually. He chose 12 very ordinary people. He started with some fishermen because there were lots of fishermen around. Then he chose a tax collector. Tax collectors collected people's money and gave it to the Romans. No one liked tax collectors, but Jesus chose one. Then he chose some more ordinary people. People who didn't quite understand. People who often got it wrong. People who were quite often scared. 12 ordinary people. That's a bit odd, isn't it? I wonder why he chose such ordinary people. Maybe it was because God thinks that everyone is special, whether they are clever or not, brave or not, good or not, whether they're rich or poor, children or grown-ups, whatever the colour of their skin, wherever they come from. So Jesus chose 12 ordinary people. But he gave them a very special job. He said, "Go and show everyone how much God loves them and how he wants them to love and care for each other." And they did. Sometimes they did it really well. Sometimes they made a bit of a mess of it. But they did, and the message got out. And the really exciting thing is that Jesus, don't think he looked exactly like this, but Jesus wants us to be his disciples today. And we don't need to be clever or brave or look good. The word disciple actually just means a learner. So we just have to be people who are happy to learn about God and tell other people and share God's love with them. So shall we all try to be Jesus' disciples this week? As usual, I've got a song. It's about those disciples and how Jesus called them specially, even though they were ordinary. And the chorus says, yes, Jesus called them. Yes, Jesus called them. Yes, Jesus called them. He called them one by one. I've got some pieces of paper with their names on to help me. Jesus called them one by one. Peter, Andrew, James and John. Next came Philip, Thomas too, Matthew and Bartholomew. Yes, Jesus called them. Yes, Jesus called them. Yes, Jesus called them. He called them one by one. James, the one they called the less. Simon, also Thaddeus. 12 apostles Judas made. Jesus was by him betrayed. Yes, Jesus called them. Yes, Jesus called them. Yes, Jesus called them. He called them one by one. Jesus calls us, this we know. Where he leads us, we will go. We will trust him as our guide, knowing he is by our side. Yes, Jesus calls us. Yes, Jesus calls us. Yes, Jesus calls us. He calls us everyone. So he calls us, whether we're clever or brave or not. He calls us to be his disciples. Now I've got a craft, which I put down somewhere and lost. Here it is. So, I thought you might like to make a string of disciples. So you need to get some paper and fold it up into lots of equal sized pieces. So you have to fold it one way, and then another, and then one way, and then another. And then on the front, you need to draw a disciple. You're probably better at drawing than me, but I'm drawing a disciple that takes up the whole of this front, like that. And you can draw him to look like anything, but his arms and his legs need to go right to the edge of the paper. And then you cut him out, but you don't cut anything down here. You just cut these bits out, and these bits out, and this bit out under his legs. And then it'll look like that. But because you didn't cut the edges, when you open it out, you'll have a whole row of disciples. Now they all look the same, don't they? I thought you might like to colour yours so they all looked different. Because Jesus calls us, whatever we look like, whoever we are. We'd love to see your disciples. If you've got a parent or a grandparent who could put them on Facebook for you, that would be lovely. Shall we just end with a prayer? Lord Jesus, Thank you for choosing ordinary people as your disciples and turning them into special people with your love. Thank you for calling us today. Help us to tell other people about your love. Amen. So remember, Jesus' disciples, ordinary people, all different, but all ordinary. Perhaps you'd like to make a string of disciples and colour them in to show how all different people can be Jesus' disciples. It's been lovely to see you. Have a great week. Bye.